What if you leave your child $150,000 and they get hooked on drugs at 18 and they want to go spend all their money, on their crack addicted boyfriend or whatever, right? So I'm a believer in keeping control of those assets. So I think things like trusts are better vehicles, or even just having the account in your name and having the child as a beneficiary or something might be better. I'm not a big fan of putting a bunch of resources, in the name of, a kid who ain't worked for nothing, like, so I think in that regard, investing for your children is the idea, right? So the what was it? The $5 a day investing plan. If you go to the allblackagenda.com, you can take a look. There's a free ebook I have there on how to build wealth for your child at $5 a day. It's an easy, straightforward, simple blueprint where every single person listening, if you did just half of what I said in that book, your kids will not have financial problems at all. Your children will literally be financially straight, financially secure. They're not going to have all these problems everybody else has where they're like, oh, I can't get $2,000 to fix my car. Your kids won't have that problem, but you got to plan ahead. The most valuable asset you have in investing is not your money. It is your time. It is your time. When the child is young, you've got 20 years to prepare. You can build hundreds of thousands of dollars in 20 years with very small drops into the investment pool. That's where rich people come from. And I shared this meme, and I felt a little guilty about sharing it. I put it on my Instagram, and everybody cheered because they got it. And it basically, what it did was it said that it compared the cost of bread in 1932 to the cost of bread now, the cost of a car in 1932 to the cost of a car now. And it was about inflation, how much more expensive everything is, right? How inflation exists and all that. And it basically said at the end, the conclusion was that inflation is used by the elite to steal the wealth of the poor and working class. Everybody cheered. Everybody's like, yeah, that's right. Those rich people, they're terrible. They're stealing our money. Okay. I'm not saying that that's wrong, right? I'm not saying that at all. I'm not in any way saying that America's a fair country or that it's not biased in some way. But here's the thing. And I'm also not saying that that's incorrect, right? Inflation does increase the wealth of the wealthy more so than people who are not, who are working class. That is 100% true. So why does that occur? Why does that happen? Well, because wealthy people, even the ones who start off poor, the difference between them and poor people is not just wealth. The wealth becomes a reflection of different strategies, right? So if you're working class and you are a person that says, okay, I'm going to get up and go to work every day and get my paycheck and go buy bread, and that's it. I mean, or in a place to live. That's different from someone who says, okay, I'm going to do all that, but I'm going to put a little to the side and invest in some assets, whether it's stocks or real estate or whatever, so that I can actually own something. Because what happens then is that when inflation occurs, when the Fed starts pumping money into the economy like they're doing, and you get inflation, the biggest side effect of that is what they call asset inflation. And asset inflation, and that's the culprit, that's what's creating the inequality. Asset inflation is where, because the Fed has gotten so heavily involved since the pandemic, the stock market has shot through the roof. Well, so benefiting from that doesn't necessarily come from just being rich. It comes from being a person that buys stock. The price of real estate has gone crazy. Alicia and I are trying to, get this townhouse in Atlanta, and it's like a damn racehorse. Like, we're like, oh, we got to get the offer in fast, and we got to hurry up, and because the market's so crazy and the real estate prices are going up. The owner is like, oh, well, whatever the price was, I don't want that price. Add another $8,000, and we did it because that's what the market demanded. That's what the market required. So asset inflation is not necessarily something that only rich people can benefit from. Asset inflation is something that investors benefit from, and you don't have to be rich to be an investor. Being an investor will eventually make you into a rich person. And then eventually somebody's going to get mad at you because they're going to think you cheated your way to the top. There are millions of people in America who started with nothing, and thousands, hundreds of thousands of Black people who started with nothing, who are now doing well because of their strategy, not because somebody gave them all this money. In fact, some of you are in here right now. I mean, feel free to shout yourselves out. I mean, some of you started with nothing, broke, poor in the projects. And it's very frustrating because you might share that with other people. You're thinking you're inspiring them, but really you're just pissing them off, right? Because it's forcing them to kind of look in the mirror and take some accountability for where things ended up. And you're like, no, I'm actually trying to tell you, like, there is a solution, there is a process. But I think that for some reason, when we're sort of black and put in this black victim box, it's like there's a consistent rejection of anything that implies on any level that I can play some role in my outcomes. Like there's some people who just blanketly reject that because it requires too much self-reflection and too much work, really. So anyway, let me get back to this. Let me answer the next question. All right. And just a reminder, if you want to leave questions for me, just log in at theblackstockmarketprogram.com and I will answer your questions first. All right. So let's see. Alan Bean is asking how to determine if a cryptocurrency is a good investment. And you put Binance Hyperfund. Best regards, Alan. Okay. Binance, I can't remember Binance. Binance is an exchange, right? But it's also a crypto, right? Yeah. So Binance, I can't speak specifically to Binance, but I can tell you what I look at when I pick a crypto. And you can see a list, a screenshot of all the cryptos I own. I think it's drboycecrypto.com. If you go to drboycecrypto.com, there's literally a screenshot of the cryptos I bought. I picked them after talking to different experts. But I look at the network effect, right? I look at people. How many people believe in this crypto? Because I know that the more people there are that believe in this network, the stronger the network is going to be. So, and that's really it. It's like, if you think about investing in a nightclub and you see a club where there's a long line of people trying to get in every Friday, then you know that people will pay higher prices to get in, that they're going to, make plenty of money. So you invest in that club. So when I think about a network around crypto, I see it as like a nightclub. So if everybody wants to be part of that network, the network inherently gains value. Like, so for example, at the All Black National Convention, that's what we are. We're a network, right? And we're B1 and we believe in the same things. Well, the stronger that network is and the more people are committed to that, the wealthier we're all becoming as a collective, the stronger we're becoming as a collective, because then at that point, other people will want to be a part of that because they see that value that's there. So that's my measuring stick to determine if a crypto is something I want to invest in. I don't invest in a lot of speculative cryptos these days. Most of the cryptos I invest in are the things that I just believe are going to be strong. So I look at Bitcoin, Ethereum, and the Ethereum killers, Solana and Cardano and stuff like that. Shiba Inu and Dogecoin. That's not even a conversation, to be honest with you. Most crypto experts don't even talk about those coins. Like if you ask them, they'll say, I have no comment, right? So just be really careful about the really speculative coins, because I don't know if that's necessarily going to be a long-term win for you. All right. So let me look in the Q&A section here. Okay, so Lewis says, what are your thoughts on Shiba Inu? Are you buying? No, I'm not buying. No disrespect if you are. So I'm not making fun of you or anything if you are. Just, I would encourage you, don't consider that to be like sort of one of your sturdier investments, because it's probably not. Okay, so that's kind of what it is. And you want to know about the All Black National Convention? Yeah, the All Black National Convention, you go to allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. We meet in Orlando October 29th through November 1st. And we're going to be there for 4 days, and it's going to be really fun. And I hope you guys will come out, and you can see the whole agenda and all the different panels and all the different breakout sessions. And then Monday is just intense learning, but Saturday night is fun. We're having a space tournament after the B1 ball. The day before, we're doing speed dating and speed networking in the backyard barbecue. In addition to that, we're having panels. Queen Afua is going to do a presentation on health and how to be healthy immune systems and stuff like that. Nuri Muhammad is going to speak as well. Vicky Dill is speaking, Dr. Claude Anderson speaking, and we have probably about 35 to 40 panelists that are experts in different areas. Like Maj Toure it talks about guns and protecting yourself, with guns. But then you have people that are experts on growing your own food. Crypto expert Carla Ballard is going to be there. Stock market investing is going to be covered. Real estate investing, we've got 3 or 4 people that are really good with real estate. Julian Gordon, Jay Morrison will talk about how he was able to raise $13 million with the Tulsa Fund. There's some other people there. Lene Javette will be talking about how to create an online class, how to make money by teaching an online class. That's something that a lot of people have asked about. So those are all the things we're going to talk about. So I hope you'll join us, allblacknationalconvention.com. That's where you can go in order to take a look. All right. So the next question I see here is, let me see. It is from Yvonne. Yvonne says, good morning, Dr. Watkins. I just read about a technology called BESS, which is some type of energy harvesting and generating system. What are your thoughts? I don't know anything about it. It sounds interesting. Let me see. Let me Google it real quick. Best. Let's see. Okay, best energy. Looks like it's some sort of energy storage system. It's best suited for applications that require a fast response time and high power demand over short and medium term. It's best renewable energy. The advantage of renewable energy tramples non-renewable. Exactly. So best, the battery energy storage system appears to compensate for the fluctuating nature of renewables. Okay. Well, I mean, it may be worth looking into. I can't speak on it as an expert because I don't know much about it, but it sounds interesting. I mean, and if the technology is interesting to you and you see companies that come highly recommended that you can invest in that are going to be part of that, sure, why not? Why not go along for the ride? Let's see, Barbara Farrell, Dr. Boyce, my name. My has a store name, QNDCL, International Herds and Variety. How can we advertise more for wider viewers? Okay, my store has a name, QNDCL, International Herds and Variety. I don't understand the nature of that business, Barbara. And so at that part, I don't know. I know a lot of people are advertising, obviously, on things like social media and stuff like that. And then you have digital ad networks you can buy ads on. Maybe hire an ad specialist. You can go to Fiverr or Upwork and hire, people that can run your ads, things like that. I think it depends on the nature of your business and what you're doing, but advertising does matter. A lot of people's businesses can't really grow because they don't advertise. So you got to advertise. Stanley, I have a businessman who has built a business similar to Facebook. How do I connect you? You know what? My one-on-one meetings, honestly, they're $1,000 an hour. I have to be honest with you. And I don't even do a lot of them at that price. So I just don't do a lot of meetings like that, to be honest with you. And $1,000 an hour is cheap if somebody is if they really believe in their idea and they're really looking for a business consultant. A lot of consultants charge a lot more than that. And I don't charge that price to be a snob or anything. It's just my time is so stretched and limited, and so many people want to meet. But if it's something, the best way a lot of times to get the attention of other people with a product or whatever it is you're trying to build is to build it and make it work and become successful with it. And then once you become successful with it, people will want to be associated with it. Like I never had to, reach out to any famous person to talk to them. I never did that. They all called me. I just put my head down, worked on my business, did my absolute best. And then next thing I know, Louis Farrakhan's reaching out, Al Sharpton was reaching out, Ice Cube's reaching out, I mean, the list goes on. I mean, Ice Cube's probably the 50th, Tyler Perry was like, all these people called me because they saw what I was doing and just wanted to talk to me. Right. So I would encourage you, like, whatever your business is, don't wait for someone like me necessarily. Now I will be at the convention. Right. So those who get like the President's Circle Pass, that's a much higher ticket price. But what it does is it puts you in a small group setting where we're more likely to have a direct one-on-one conversation. And I have to do that just because when there's thousands of people trying to speak to you, I can't talk to every single person. But a lot of times, everything, most things like that one-on-one direct stuff, it is pay to play. Like if I wanted to go talk to Barack Obama, I'd have to go spend $50,000, to go to one of his fundraisers so I can sit and have a conversation with him, and so that kind of ends up being the way it is. And I hope that makes sense. So if the technology is good and the business is good, then dive in and get it started and show everybody how great it is. And then when you show up with something that's done and ready and you say, hey, I've got this product, people are already buying it, it's working. I just need you to promote it to help us blast it off to the stratosphere. Then that's great. Then at that point you can make deals and get things done. Okay. So don't wait for people, to co-sign on something that isn't yet operational. Like you got to make it operational. You got to have proof of concept. That's going to get people's attention. If you're just talking about something great, like this great idea that you have that's going to change the whole world and you haven't done anything on it, people aren't going to believe you until you show them. Okay. So let's see. Barbara says, Dr. Boyce, my mom has a store called QNDCL. Okay. International Herbs and Variety. Okay. How can we advertise to wider viewers? Yeah, I would look into social media advertising. I think that's a good way that a lot of people are advertising their stuff and getting it out there. And I think that's probably the most efficient method for sure. And finding out who your core audience is. So you may want to even take a little class on that, like just social media advertising. You can also hire people on Upwork and Fiverr that can get that done for you. Lydia Crowder says, thank you for everything. I have a list. I have a first trade account, and I'm trying to figure out how to write a covered call. I have 100 shares of SWN. Okay. To write a covered call, basically, what you do is, instead of buying a call, you're actually selling a call, right? And it's covered because you own 100 shares of the stock. And so literally on, say, Robinhood, you would just hit sell, and then you pick the call that you want to sell, the expiration date and the price point, the strike price, and then just sell it, and somebody buys it. And what you've effectively sold is you sold the rights to, for them to buy the stock from you at a certain price. So if your strike price is, say, $11 and you sell the call, that means if the price goes up above 11, they're probably going to show up and buy it from you at 11. So if it goes to 14, you don't get 14. You can't sell it at 14. You have to sell it to them for 11, because that's what they pay for. They pay for the right of first refusal. Or think of it like those NFL contracts where in the contract they'll say, that the team has the right of first refusal, or to re-sign the player at a certain price. They're basically buying a call option. So they're saying, we reserve the right to re-sign you for, say, $5 million a year, no matter what you're worth, right? So if the Denver Broncos want to pay you $10 million a year, you can't take that deal because you agreed that the Dallas Cowboys can buy your services for $5 million. What they effectively did was they bought a call option, and you sold the call option, right? In exchange for some other guarantee or whatever the case, maybe it's higher salary, that kind of thing. All right, let me see. Next question. I'm looking in the Q&A section, by the way. So if you put your question in the chat, I probably won't see it, but I'm looking in the Q&A. I'm answering as many as I can. Then we got a few more minutes. How do you feel about SIVA and Rivian's applications for IPO? Pamela, if that I'd have to look up. So if you want me to look it up, just put that question in, log in at the blackstockmarketprogram.com and put that question in there, and I will look it up for next week, and I will answer it next week for sure. And if you can't make it next week, the recording is always put in maybe about a day or two after. Carmelita grabs it and puts it in there. And so it will be in there, and you can get the answer to your question that way. Let's see. Roderick says, how do you feel about investing in the cannabis market, Tilray, Kerr, Leaf, etc.? I'm a big investor in cannabis. I'm still waiting for it to pay off. I know it's going to take time. It's not something that happens overnight, right? And it's that's kind of what it is. And that's just that's just the reality of it all. Okay, so what I would say is that cannabis to me is just something that requires patience, right? It's coming, right? Like, that cannabis is eventually going to get legalized. That this was probably going to mean good things for the stock, or for any stock in the cannabis industry, particularly the strongest companies or ETFs and things like that. So to me, it's just a waiting game, and it's frustrating because you want to know when it's going to happen. When's all this going to pop? You don't know. Nobody knows exactly when it's going to happen, but I believe it's going to. Maybe it's like my mama keeps waiting for Jesus to come back. She keeps thinking Jesus is coming back. So we don't know when he's coming, but the Bible says he is. All right. So will the convention be held yearly? Asked Marlon. Yes. The All Black National Convention happens once a year. And this year it's in Orlando, Florida. allblacknationalconvention.com is where you can go to find out more about the convention and the whole agenda and everything else. Let's see. Hebrew Sinclair says, what would you advise when you want to create multiple businesses and income streams? Is it best to concentrate on the first or multiply your efforts? I'm a believer that I guess if you can go to the bank and borrow, $1 million, maybe you could do more than one thing at one time. If you can't go and get an endless supply of capital and an endless supply of resources, it might be better to focus on one thing at a time. Because what happens a lot of times is that if you put all your energy into that first business and it does well, or at least makes cash flow, you can then use that cash flow to fund your other businesses. So in a way, it's like back in the day, remember, like 150 years ago, people would have kids, like, so they can have like workers on their farm, right? So your goal is to have people would have lots and lots of kids. Like I didn't understand that. Like if you're dirt poor in Kansas or something, like why would you have 14 kids, right? Um, but they would do that because the more kids you had, the more workers you had. It was children were an asset. They were human capital, right? So if you think about it, right? So let's say that me and Ma Kettle want to have as many children as possible so we can have as many workers on the farm as we can. So, does it make sense for us to have, I mean, we could do it this way. We could have a 1-year-old, then a 2-year-old, then a 3-year-old, then a 4-year-old, then a 5-year-old, then a 6-year-old, then a 7-year-old, right? Maybe we'll even have twins along the way. Would that make sense? Or maybe it might be better to have, have one child, and then maybe when that child's 3, have another one, and then maybe wait 3 more years and have another one, right? And then let those kids get older. So, and then by the time that 4th kid comes along, one of the older kids can help babysit the other kid, right? While we're out in the farm, the babysitters are the kids are going to take over for babysitting to help us raise the other kids, basically. You see what I mean? So it's not a perfect analogy, but you get the point. Like, so your companies are like those kids where if you have all your kids at once, it's going to just drain all your resources. So you got 3 businesses, 4 businesses, and you're spreading yourself thin amongst all the businesses. So none of them are getting that critical mass of support that you need to get to the next level and get over the hump. It's very hard to get over the hump if you're spread thin. But if you have that one business that you're super passionate about and you're pouring everything into that business, you have a greater likelihood of finding that success that you need where things pop. I know a lot of business owners, a lot of people, there are people in the Black Business School right now who literally are clearing $100,000, $200,000 a month in revenue from their business. These are people that used to work regular jobs and all this stuff. And it's because they had that one thing that they did and it clicked. Maybe they took a class. Alicia's friend she sells CMOS, and she took our entrepreneurship class, which is Black Money 103, blackmoney103.com if you want to take a look. And she went through Black Money 103, which is part of our Black Money sequence. We have 101 through 106. And she took Black Money 103. And what she learned was that she actually had a great business idea that she didn't realize it could be turned into money. She would make CMOS, and she would, people would want her CMOS. She would give it away, and people wanted it at work or whatever. And so she created the CMOS business where she started making the CMOS, and she started marketing it just to her Facebook friends. And her Facebook friends gave her that initial spark financially, where she was able to make a quick $3,000-$4,000 and reinvest in more CMOS, and then slowly but surely expand through word of mouth and everything else. And then it got to the point within less than like 6 months to a year where her husband was able to quit his job. Her son quit his job so that they could sit in the kitchen and make CMOS all day because they had so many orders coming in that they couldn't keep up with it. So they found that spark. And it came from the fact that she was just focused on the CMOS thing. And that makes it easier. If you're focused on one thing, it makes it easier for branding. It also makes it easier to hit a critical mass of cash flow generation so that then later on, once you're generating cash flow from, say, CMOS, you could take some of that cash and put it into something else, right? But if you're doing all that early, then it's very difficult because you don't have what you need in order to run all those companies. All right, so let's see here. Brad Smith, how do you feel about purchasing U.S. bonds in any market? I think bond purchases are fine. Bonds are considered to be lower risk than stocks. I don't think it's necessarily a terrible thing. I don't buy a lot of bonds, but bonds go up and down in price just like stocks do, just not as dramatically. And that's when they talk about the 10-year yield going up. What they're really saying is that bond prices have gone down. When bond prices go down, yields go up. I can explain that in detail later if you want to, but basically, bonds are something that people might buy typically for speculative reasons, right? A lot of bonds have coupon payments and they'll pay you interest, but a lot of people buy bonds, I believe, because they're speculating that the price might go up and they can just make capital gains on the price change in the bond as opposed to waiting on the interest payments and all that stuff. All right, so Furman, you got the last question. Doc, what are your thoughts on the accuracy of Kawasaki's prognostication that a worldwide economic crash will happen in October or the near future? Let me tell you about that, Furman. For the last 120 years, there have always been people who've been able to make millions of dollars writing books predicting the end of the world. That's you can go back every year. Somebody's saying this is it. This is when the global economic crash is going to happen. Just like those people say every year, Jesus is coming. You better, or you're going to kill yourself because the end of the world is near. Right? These entire cults that commit mass suicide because they think the world's coming to an end because Venus is aligned with Saturn or whatever. Right? And To this point, that hasn't happened, right? To this point, all those books predicting the end of the world, the global economic collapse, have been wrong. And the other thing that is interesting is that sometimes you see people getting too trapped in the moment, where when they do see a natural economic decline, recessions happen all the time. They say, see, I told you it was all coming, right? When COVID started, when the pandemic started, there were people who were like, see, the end is near. This proves that the end is near. No, it proves that the world is going through another crisis. We'll probably make it through this one like we have all the other ones. And then life will go on like normal. So I would not put too much stock in, like, it's, if you're sitting around waiting for the end of the world to happen, there's a good chance you'll be waiting a long time. And a lot of people will sit on the sidelines. They won't invest. They don't make any moves because they're waiting for the whole global economic system to collapse. Well, there are people who have been waiting for that for 60 years, and it hasn't happened. 100 years, it hasn't happened. Waiting their whole life, and it hasn't happened. So I don't know if that's where the business I would be in now. If he's predicting that there could be like some sort of massive global recession or some sort of economic shock or something that can happen that we've never seen before, that is entirely possible. And I would say probable, because the economic system is shifting, it's changing, and when you have that much change, you're going to have some new dynamics occur that we've never dealt with before. When the Great Depression happened in 1929, there were people who thought that meant the end of the global economic system. And it looked like it for a while. The Great Depression lasted for years, right? But it wasn't the end of anything. It was an era. That's all it was an era. Like if somebody were to tell you, well, the global economic system ended in 1929. The world came to an end in 1929. You'd be like, what are you talking about? I was born in 1985. Like no, the world kept spinning and it just adjusted, right? So don't get caught up in that, in my view. Like I would just, fear does sell. That's why Facebook is in trouble, because they think Facebook was actually selling fear. Like they know that anxiety and anger drives engagement, and that is what they use. They use those algorithms to get people riled up and fired up. Next thing you know, you got a million angry Trump supporters that are storming the Capitol. You got a million people out in the streets protesting for Black Lives Matter and everything else. And then the politicians, I believe politicians and media also push that because they were trying to win an election, right? That's what they do. Whenever there's an election year, I guarantee it, by the 2024 election, I promise you, mark my words, I want you to remember this, stick a pin in it. The 2024 election, there will be some sort of massive economic political crisis. There will be something that will have people out in the streets or whatever. I believe a lot of this is orchestrated. Because again, think about it. Since the election, you haven't heard anything from the Black Lives Matter stuff. You haven't heard anything, about riots in the streets and all this stuff. And that it's because there's no reason to do it now, right? And you see this in other examples. This is actually a marketing strategy, because a lot of things are marketing. Even elections are really about marketing, except instead of getting money, and you're getting votes, but you're still selling a product. The product happens to be the politician. It might be the idea, and you market the idea to get people to buy it. And instead of giving you money, they give you votes, right? So it's the same. It's just like business. But pay attention. Even Oprah. Does anybody remember the time where Oprah had that little controversy, that manufactured controversy, where she was in Europe and she said that this white lady told her that she couldn't afford the purse when she went into the store? She was in a store in Sweden or something and was looking at this $1,000 purse, and the lady insinuated that she couldn't afford it because she was Black. And then Oprah goes and tells this story, like the nerve of her. She said that I can't afford them. She insinuated I couldn't afford the purse because I was Black. And a lot of people got riled up, because it triggered their insecurity. Like, how dare you tell me that I can't buy a purse because I'm Black? I'm gonna go give you money. I'm gonna give you all my money just to prove to you that I can afford it, right? Like Whitley Gilbert in that episode in A Different World, when she went through that. Remember that, right? And Oprah got everybody triggered and excited and all this other stuff. And then, but if you go back and look at that, pay attention. At that time, she was releasing a new movie or a book, or it was something. She was launching something. So that whole emotional triggering was driven by the fact that she had something she needed to sell, right? So don't get too caught up in that stuff. Fear does sell, and that's why they sell these doomsday end of the world books and all this other stuff. Just do what you got to do. Take care of your family, make your investments, adjust. if you adjust, chances are 99 times out of 100, everything's going to be okay. All right. So I'm going to get out of here, guys. It was great to see you. Great to talk to you. allblacknationalconvention.com. I hope you guys will come to the convention. It's really going to be fun. I guarantee you will walk out transformed. Your children will be transformed. We have a whole curriculum for kids, so your kids will know economics. We have experts that can teach your children that will be there. We have experts that can talk to you about crypto and stocks and relationships and politics and just, it's great. It's really, I'm really excited about it. So and even my mama gonna be there. So y'all get to meet my mama. All right. So take care, everybody. Love you, and I will see you soon. So I guess I'll check with you guys next week. If you want to see the recording of everything we did today and every other class, log in at theblackstockmarketprogram.com, theblackstockmarketprogram.com. Also, later on today, I'm going to list the 6 stocks I'm buying for this week. So just log in at theblackstockmarketprogram.com and you can take a look at the stocks